Hi there, my name is Steven. We're here in the Michelin Bicycle Tire Workshop, and today we're going to go over how do I set the correct tire pressure for my tires. Nothing really has as big of an impact on your bicycle's performance as what kind of tire pressure that you're running. So trying to get it right or as close to right as possible is a very important step, and we're going to go over how to do that. First thing to take into consideration is, are you riding on a road bike, a city bike, or a mountain bike? Okay, so for road bikes and city bikes, it's actually somewhat easier than for a mountain bike, and we're going to attack there. So for road bikes and city bikes, you've got tires that are designed to roll easily across relatively hard surface. You don't need to worry about absorbing a lot of rocks and roots and stuff like that. So the composition is a little bit easier, and the tire pressures are a little bit easier to figure out as well. So how do I do that? First thing to keep in mind always is the minimum and the maximum tire pressure that your tire is allowed to run. No matter what you do, you want to make sure that you always stay within that minimum and maximum. If you go too high, you risk a blowout, and if you go too low, you risk punctures due to hitting rocks or curbs or potholes. So in order to find out what is the correct tire pressure for you, we have charts that are available, and the things that you need to keep in mind are your weight and the width of tire that you're running on. So if you look at the charts that are available here, you can see that for a 80 kilogram rider, for this specific tire, it has this specific recommendation, and that's pretty much where you want to run it. Okay? Now, if you're running in wet conditions and you want to increase your grip a little bit, it's okay to lower your tire pressure from 10 to 15 psi. You don't want to go much more than that, and you never want to go below the recommended pressure. But by lowering the tire pressure, it's going to give you a little bit more grip, especially in the corners. If you have any road imperfections, it's going to absorb those nicely for you. Okay? So that's road tires and city tires, and now we're going to get into mountain bike tires. So next we're going to look at mountain bike tires. As you can tell, mountain bike tires are a good bit different from the road bike and city bike tires. They're a lot wider. They've got knobbies on them, so it's not a smoother surface, but it's actually knobbies that help you to maintain good contact with the trail, no matter what comes in your way, rocks or roots or stumps or anything like that. Okay, so how do I figure out what pressure I need to ride on my mountain bike tire? Well, there's really three properties that you need to worry about for this. Okay, first is going to be your weight, second is going to be what kind of terrain that you're riding on, and third is going to be your skill level. Okay, so I'm going to explain what the benefit is of running a high tire pressure and a low tire pressure. For a high tire pressure, you've got really good support for the sidewalls. You really risk less and less to have flats because you're impacting something and the tire comes into contact with the rim, maybe pinching an inner tube. If you're running a tubeless setting with a high tire pressure, you're not going to have conditions that are called burp conditions, where the air can actually come out between the rim and the bead. So yeah, it seems like high tire pressure is the magic bullet, right? Well, not really. High tire pressure is going to be good to protect the tire and the rim, but it's really going to give you a bad ride as far as trying to maintain proper grip when you're in really technical situations. And it can give you a really inaccurate feeling. You can have a lot of washouts and things like that that really will minimize your enjoyment of riding on the trails. So then if high tire pressure isn't the magic bullet, maybe low tire pressure is. Well, it is true that low tire pressure gives you a much better contact with the trail. It allows you to not bounce all over the place if you're going over rocks and roots and things like that. It absorbs that very nicely. But again, you get into a condition where if it's too low, you risk to really damage the rim. You risk to have some snake bite, pinch flats on your inner tube, or to have the burp condition where the air comes out if you're running tubeless. So how is it that I need to figure out, because too high is bad, too low is bad, what is it that I need to do? Okay, we've got good news for you. The good news is that based on your weight, you can look at the charts that are in the comments below. So you're going to start there, and we guarantee that that's going to give you a nice middle of the road, it's hard enough but not too soft, and soft enough but not too hard experience. After that, you're going to want to take into consideration your skill level. If you're a more advanced rider and you want to get a little bit extra grip, and you're the kind of rider that knows how to avoid the roots, knows how to avoid the rocks in the trails, maybe is a little bit more smooth in your lines as you're descending, you can afford to lower that tire pressure. That'll give you better cornering, that'll give you better performance out of your tire, and you don't really risk too much to have any flats. However, if you're a beginner or an intermediate rider, you really want to at least start with the recommended tire pressure and go from there. Okay? So the best thing to do is set it at the middle. If you think that it's a little bit too spongy, or you're hitting rocks and you're hitting roots and stuff like that, we'll raise it a little bit and then do the same section of trail again, and if that feels better, leave it there. Write it down, set it and forget it. If on the other hand, you're going through and you think, well, no, I think I can go a little bit lower, get a little bit extra grip out of it, I'm not touching the rim on anything, and I want that extra bit of grip, lower it a little bit, do the same set of trail again, same section of trail again. If it's good for you, write it down and use that the next time. Another very important thing to notice is that tires over time, they will lose some pressure. So if you wait a few weeks in between rides, you always want to make sure that you check your tire pressure before going out on a ride. Okay, that's pretty easy to do. Most pumps, if you have a track pump that has an integrated tire gauge. If not, you can just take your tire gauge that is something like this one here, and you just put it onto the tire like this. It'll beep if you have this kind of gauge, and it'll tell you what your current pressure is. If it is below or above the recommended reading, again, make sure that you adjust it always within those recommended tire pressure ranges. Okay? So that's how you need to establish what is the correct tire pressure for you. I hope that's been informative, and happy trails.